Welcome back everyone to another Steel Division replay cast, and this time we're going to have a 2v2. And this 2v2 apparently was recorded live. Don't know what this means. But nobody's actually deploying anything. What if I go... Yeah, okay. So that means they can only look at one person. Interesting. Okay, so gonna be, I guess, better so that I don't know what's happening and I don't know how long it lasts. Anyway, we have 2 3rd Infantry, 3rd Canadian Infantry, 12th SS, and a 91st Luftwaffe, Tarsh 4 Metallic, Marcus Aurelius, and Pilot 3D. Already coming up with some heavy batteries from Tarsh. Looks like he's gonna be going with quite a few units of infantry, and that's of course a very good decision with the Luftwaffe. If you can use them correctly. He's going to be going for the town and trying to get that under his control. He's got his friend coming up on the right side. He's going to be covering a very small area, Mr. 12 SS, with a mortar half-track, a Boyd Cromwell, of course very, very strong against AT guns because of its 1,200 meter gun. That's got a very high explosive rating. Then the command armor car to buff it up, and just a few support units like anti-tank guns and recons. If we go over to the Allied side, we have US Pilot 3D. Oh, okay. I guess we do not know what the Allies are doing, like entirely. For some reason, it's still showing the opposing side's units on the map. Yeah, interesting. What about neutral? Yeah, so I'm guessing this is just the observer mode working. There we go. Okay, so the game started and now I can see everything. Huh, quirks. Anyway, so we have Marcus Aurelius on the left side with lots of infantry to capture the town, a few anti-tank units, a couple of AAA just in case, and a couple of AT guns. I am foreseeing some problems with the 210mm Schwimmwagen. I'm guessing that this unit is going to be doing a lot of damage to all of that on the left side. Whereas on the right side, there's a Ram 2 that should be able to deal with the Cromwell, but there's also a lot of infantry for US pilots, so the Cromwell is going to have a pretty good field day over there. Already coming up with the mortar, going to be doing some damage, but I'm thinking he's going for some smoke. Yeah, he's going for some smoke, just to be able to reach the tree line without any fire coming on him. And we already see the time on target coming in for Tarsh. There's a few flamethrowers for the Allies, but it's only the 2-man flamethrower squads. Of course, it's still going to be doing quite a lot of damage, 2 squads that eat up the flamethrower fire. But at the same time, this time on target is going to be doing some damage as well to the Allies. So it goes both ways. In the meantime, in the center, the Axis seem to have been going in a little bit too late. The Allies already have their units set up. It's only a couple of sniper scouts, though. Of course, going to be able to pin down those green recruits, the Ersatztruppen. So those aren't going to be all that useful. But overall, could be going better for the Axis on the left side. It looks like the Allies might be able to win out on the left side. They have also a command vehicle that they didn't disembark, or command infantry that didn't disembark, so that's kind of a weird choice. In the meantime, on the right side, the Ram 2 is going to be starting to try to shoot at that Cromwell. There it goes. Excellent armor penetration for that tank. Does exactly what it's supposed to, exactly what it says on the box, and kills that Cromwell. Very good kill for Pilot. That is a very, very nice event for him, because that Cromwell would have done a lot of damage to his infantry. We still have the mortar half-track on the right side for the Germans, still placing down some smoke, and there's a sniper coming in, but there isn't really much for the sniper to shoot at. There's only vehicles over here for the Germans, because it looks like all the infantry was sent to the middle / taken out, and in the middle the sniper scouts and the recce. Oh no, that's only a Lynx. It's been doing some pretty good work in pinning down the Germans, whereas on the sort of more to the left side, the sniper scouts are trying to take some fire and have been retreated a little bit by Marcus. Okay, so Befehlspanzer 3 is coming out. We're going to have Phase B in 6 minutes, so that's going to mean a lot more usefulness for the 12th SS. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so what's pretty good for the Germans is that they're essentially just going to be getting better the more the game goes on, because of course the 12 SS just scales up really well. Right now they're not doing all that badly, although the fact that the map is so weirdly sort of split isn't really giving us a lot of hinters as to what might be happening, because there's of course just random single units that have been pushing out the map. As you can see, this Ersatztruppen gave me that bulge, and also the Staghound on the left side. So that could be a little bit... Ooh, this is going to be devastating if Tarsh doesn't, dodge that, but he does not know. That's what makes this observation post artillery so strong, is that you don't know it's coming. That is, of course, unless you try to predict where it is, which might just get your units... ooh, there goes the Sniper Scout. Might just get your units out of position, and, there might just be no artillery coming in. Right now, Kangaroo with some infantry coming up the center. That's going to be doing quite well against the infantry from Tarsh. Here comes the artillery, and at this point it's already too late, so I would think that Marcus... He's trying to pull back some of his units, but really he cannot do that much. Also, some of the shells falling near the rifles. The rifles, of course, going to be completely pinned down, along with the support of the Ersatztruppen. The Fallschirmjägers are going to be able to very, very quickly push in there, and if they don't, that's going to be a bit of a mistake. I would be pushing right now with the Ersatztruppen if I was Tarsh, because I really wouldn't want the allies to sort of be able to recover there. I want to capitalize upon the artillery strike as quickly as possible. In the meantime, the Lynx still doing its job and suppressing some infantry, but it's running out of ammo, so they're going to need to resupply that as quickly as possible. 6-pounder on the right to counter the 12 SS. 12 SS coming in with a Bite of Firefly. Interesting that they didn't go for the Bite of Firefly earlier, but with 4 minutes left before the Phase B, they want to get that vehicle out as quickly as possible while it's still going to be worth it. And this could also be good because the allies might not be expecting it. The problem is, of course, there aren't really any big allied vehicles on the right side. There is the Ram 2, which is, of course, pretty decent for a command vehicle, but it's really, really lackluster in terms of anti-infantry. So if the Germans had been going for some more infantry, Ram 2 wouldn't have been that much of a danger in the first place. Another Ram 2 on the left side from Marcus Aurelius. Of course, not really a lot of targets for it to shoot at. It can machine gun down some infantry, which is working out really well. The Fallschirmjägers have been defeated in the town, so that means that the allies have a pretty hefty advantage if they can bring in some reinforcements. The Germans are coming up with a Panzer III and some troops, but it's still not going to be enough to counter all of this infantry that's coming up for the allies. And the Ram 2 might even be able to do some more damage to the German troops coming in towards the town as reinforcements. On the right side, the Bite of Firefly has been doing its job, it seems, shooting at some infantry. So the tree line getting spotted there is definitely pretty good for the Axis, but the Axis are definitely getting pushed back really hard. Right now the Allies do have a bit of an advantage in terms of VPs, and here comes some flamethrowers, gonna be unable to do a lot to the Ersatztruppen because they were moving around a little bit weirdly, so not really the best usage of the flamethrower there, but here comes the rifles. The rifles are going to be able to take the town and hold it, I am guessing. That is to say, unless these Fallschirmjäger flamethrowers have anything to say about it. I don't really like these two-man flamethrower squads. I don't think that they're just survivable enough. Like, even if they do get close and do start to pop some flames against the infantry, it's really not going to be enough. That is to say, unless they just somehow manage to get the best flank possible, which in a town can or cannot happen. And right now it's not really happening. That's a good flank coming in on the rifles, but that's just only because the rifles didn't really have any support there. If you support your infantry, that is going to be much, much better for them. Against units like those flamethrowers, there goes the Lynx finally, bringing in the Ersatztruppen, coming up close and destroying the vehicle with the support of this 37mm. The Germans seem to have a bit of an opening on the center that they can try to capitalize upon, but really on the right side is where the Germans are losing hard. The Canadians are trying to essentially just establish a line on these trees with the support of some ET vehicles, of course Rams. Then he's also got a Wasp that I think he's going to be trying to use to essentially dismantle this Panther reindeer that's in the orchard. That's exactly what the Wasps are for, with their semi-long range as a flamethrower, 260 meters. That's more than the range of your average handheld AT weapon. So we have the first aircraft purchase from Marcus, and of course it is a fighter, a Spitfire. Just wants to be a little bit safe. Here comes an ME-109 with some experience to counter it, slash do some strafing runs of its own. Not really doing all that much yet, but could be very, very strong soon, depending on what either side decides to purchase in terms of aircraft. In the meantime, it looks like the Germans have the LEIG support gun that's trying to support the German units in the center. And right now, the flamethrowers have been doing well with the support of the Ersatz-Truppen, smashing down some rifles, but there's still quite a few rifles sort of huddling around the town, which interestingly enough hadn't been pushed into support, so that's definitely not that good. In the meantime, on the right side, the Allies seem to have lost most of their units here to the fire of the Germans from this little town, and so looks like the Germans are trying to push through, but these infantry units on the right side for Metallic are gonna fall very soon, because it's only a couple of isolated infantry units that are alone against a vehicle-supported force, so they're gonna fall very quickly. In the meantime, we have a Marder 2 being purchased by Tarsh, which is going to help in countering the non-existent Allied armor, but just in case the Allies were to go for something a little bit heavier than a Staghound, that's going to be coming in very handy. In the meantime, the Germans have secured the town pretty much entirely, and they need to get some kind of defensive line set up so that then they can extend their control over the center of the map with some vehicles. Of course, the Martyrs are going to be starting to do that. They do have 10 rounds of HE, so that is very, very useful. Sherman free on the field for Marcus. I am not entirely 100% on that decision. Yes, the Sherman free is very, very useful against enemy infantry, but its price tag is quite high for what it essentially does, which is just a little bit of infantry support and a decent anti-vehicle against light vehicles. Fighter Firefly getting pinned down by, it looks like, some light artillery fire from the Ram OP. Ram OP, of course, not quite as strong as the Tubuagas the Germans were using earlier, but it has the advantage that it does have quite a lot of armor, 12 frontal armor, so it is not really going to be that easily sniped. In the meantime, Ram 2 going to be focusing on the Sherman Firefly, trying to make it fall back, but it's going to be taking some fire from the SPAC 37mm. 37mm using the normal rounds, the AP rounds. It's not going to be able to do much against the Ram except stunning it, which of course it's actually working out fairly well. Stunning it for better AT guns like the 50mm, but the 50mm isn't going to be able to destroy it, you know, up front. It's going to need to get some rear shots, which it might. Here comes the falling back for the Ram 2. It might just turn around. It's still facing front. That's not good for the Allies. Or, sorry, for the Axis. It's also not good for the Allies because the Ram is falling back. There's a Panzer IV-J on the field for Metallic. Of course, the Panzer IV-J being cheaper than the Panzer IV-H, but really not lacking a lot in terms of stats compared to the Panzer IV-H. It is a very useful vehicle for the 12th SS. There's also a Yak Panzer IV coming in for Metallic. I am not entirely sure of that. The Axis did have a few units that were capable of AT, so getting that Yak Panzer IV with the 12 AP might just not be the best decision. It's really not going to be that useful against enemy infantry, so I'm not really too keen on that. In the meantime, ME-109 going to be forced to retreat, and the Germans consolidating on the left side. The Allies still have a bit of an advantage going, and ooh, a Henschel. So Henschel, very, very hefty investment of 200 points. Might be used against some of these armored vehicles from the Allies, but I think that the Germans could have been essentially making do with what they had already. And Henschel isn't going to be destroying the Sherman free. There's also 2 Spitfires charging straight at it, plus the Staghound AA. Fighters decide to not push in the advantage when they could have. Instead, they wait for the ME-109 to close in and then move in. Still gonna be enough, but very lucky that the Henschel hadn't been escaping earlier. So there goes 200 points for the Germans. Definitely a big loss. there for the Axis. I am not entirely fond of Henschels unless I'm facing a very, very heavily armored opponent like a Jumbo, because you don't really need the Henschel to snipe down some Shermans when you have Martyrs. That's at least my experience. Well, look at that. US pilots still going for some artillery strikes. This is a targeted attack, actually. It is one of the three different types of attacks that you can do, and that's the more sort of accurate one, but it's only going to be firing one round at a time. And that's going to be giving the Void Firefly plenty of warning to get out of that fire before it panics him. In the meantime, ME-109 going to be dueling it out with some Spitfires. Of course, lots of veteran ME-109s coming in from these German players. Going to be giving them the edge, despite their cheap cost, 140 points. These veteran ME-109s are very, very deadly. They have 5 weapons that can be brought to bear on enemy fighters or bombers, and of course that allows them to shoot down enemy planes really, really quickly. Here comes 4 pieces of AA from Tarsh, which is not really that good. It looks like it's 37mm, but these 4 pieces of AA are really going to be helping out a lot against these Wolverines that are pushing up for the Allies, nor are they going to help against the Sherman Freeze, and they're definitely not going to help against the 25-pounders. There's a 25-pounder right now that's expended all of its ammunition, and I think that it was bombarding the town, and it looks like the town has been taking some fire. The Allies are trying to mount up an assault, but they're getting pinned down by the Fallschirmjägers and the MGs. Very good usage of the smoke from the 25-pounder. Gonna be covering the advance of the rifles and the Stuart Recce to prevent the MG-44 from shutting down that push too quickly. In the meantime, it looks like the right side of the map has been slowly but steadily falling to the grip of the Allies. It seems like entirely the right side is Canadian. Although the Canadians were pushed away from this sort of advanced tree line, they have fallen back to a more reasonable position that they can hold. And of course that's kind of resulted in a more cohesive front line for the Canadians. So the right side is still pretty much under their control. What could change that is this Panzerwerfer coming in from Tarsh. Panzerwerfer is a very strong little vehicle, but the problem is, of course, it's only got 20 rounds of ammunition, so it can only fire, I believe, 3 or 4 salvos before it has to be resupplied. I am more leaning on the 4, but it's been a while since I've used it. So you have to use those correctly, and then you have to make sure that you have some logistics, which could be expensive. So aiming them correctly is very important. Here comes a salvo on a couple of rifles that were out in the open. I don't think this is something that you should be doing with your Panzerwerfer. You should be shooting at people that are in cover so that you can dislodge them from said cover or force them to retreat or to surrender, instead of just firing them on people in the open and just pinning them down, because these units in the open could have been taking fire from the infantry over here. The problem here is the Kangaroo, not the rifles. And of course the Kangaroo could be dealt with by this Panther. Panther D isn't really pushing in to shoot at the Kangaroo though, which is a mistake, because the Kangaroo, as you can see, at 1,000 meters, I believe, is the range of the gun on the 1,200. Really? Then no. So at 1,200, the Panther could be sitting here, and if you can check the line of sight that the Panther would be hidden from, all this tree line in the south wouldn't be able to see the Panther because of this other tree line. So the Panther would be safely hidden from any AT that the Allies had in this area. So the Panther could be pushing up a little bit safer against the Kangaroo. And in general, the Axis should be making a little bit more usage of that that advantage that they have with the long-range units and the line of sight provided by these line of sight obstacles provided by the map. This Yak Panzer IV is most likely going to go down to the Sherman Free. It's falling back from something, but it looks like it's not going to be going down. It's facing the frontal armor to the Sherman Free, so most likely not going to be going down anytime soon. In the meantime, the Panther is going to be spotted by the Recce, but there's not much that Recce can do about it. They could be trying to push up a 17-pounder Does the Canadian division have the 17 pounder? I'm thinking that they do, but I might be wrong. I really don't see that division too often. So, yeah, but whatever. If they did have a 17 pounder, I would really like them to be pushing up a couple of 17 pounders on the right side of the map. Mostly just because with these open fields, it's just very, very good to have long-range AT guns, so that they can use that open line of sight to their advantage. Also for the center, a couple of 17 pounders wouldn't be too bad, but it looks like the Germans aren't really focusing on the center, so the Allies are also doing the same and focusing on the flanks. In the meantime, a couple of artillery shots coming in from Marcus Aurelius, not only from the 25 pounder, but also from a 203mm OP carrier. Interesting little placement for the artillery rounds. Of course, some hitting the town and smashing those buildings to rubble is definitely good for the Allies. They have mostly smashed the town. They need to smash just a few more buildings so that the Germans can't use them for cover, and they can just push in and take it from the Luftlande. The Luftlande without any cover isn't really going to be all that useful. There are a couple of only one Flak 88 pushing up for Tarsh, but that's really not going to be enough to deal with all of the Allied stuff that's kind of just pushing through. That is to say, if the Allied stuff doesn't get itself demolished by something else, which it doesn't look like it is going to be. There goes a martyr for the Germans. The Germans are really starting to lose a lot of units on the left side, and now that the flak is going to be spotted, the 25 pounders can really easily... Oh, actually one of them is a Sexton, but it's the same gun, it's a 25 pounder, so it doesn't really matter. These 25 pounders can really focus on the Flak 88, as you can see, along with... Oh, he cancelled the... Oh no, he didn't cancel the artillery barrage, it's just that he went in too close to the end, so the OP was forced to retreat. In the meantime, the right side is still firmly under control of the Allies. Here comes a huge push. 3 big tanks, 2 Panthers, and a Panther... Not a Panther, White Firefly, plus a Panther G. So there goes a Wolverine, there goes a DD Sherman. I'm guessing that was a DD Sherman. Maybe it was a DD... Yeah, it was a DD Priest. So all of these vehicles going down, plus the Tiger Wittmann. That means a lot of points were spent on this push. If the Axis do not... Oh, there goes Wittmann. Very good job from these Achilleses. Achilloi. Very good job from the Achilles, from Pilot, using that vehicle with the 17 pounder Flitz advantage in destroying the Tiger, and also coming in some flanking fire on the German column that's pushing up. As you can see right now, the Germans are just pouring in to one small area, and they're going to be taking some fire from artillery. There goes one artillery round doing a lot of damage, destroying some units and pinning a lot of others. Here comes the Ram 2, trying to shoot at the Panther G, but the Panther G is quicker and destroys the Ram 2. Also, looks like the Wolverine on the left was destroyed by the Panther/Firefly Horde. And right now, the Allies need to find up some way to defeat this German push. That is to say, it's the only danger on the map. On the left side, the Allies still have a bit of the upper hand because they have the superiority in terms of artillery. There is a artillery piece from the Germans, which is a 122mm Soviet howitzer, and so of course that's very, very strong, but the problem is it's only one howitzer, and if the Allies use the Sexton and the 25 pounder, they can counter battery the 396, right? And of course the Sexton, being a... sorry for that mic smack, being a armored vehicle, can sort of take some more punishment than the open crew of the howitzer, the German howitzer, can actually receive. So the German howitzer is really in trouble if the Allies do some counter battery. There we go, already getting pinned. In the meantime, looks like on the right side, the German push has been going pretty well. They have managed to secure a few tree lines. A couple of their units are falling back, but also a couple of their units have managed to score some successes. Problem is, it seems like right now they're kind of just getting funneled onto the line of fire of the Achilles, and so some of their units are having to retreat, and some of their other units are in trouble from the fire of that tank destroyer. Their main hope are going to be these 2 Panthers, it looks like, on the left side. But there's a Wolverine here ready to, well, maybe ready to repel those. They need to essentially, yeah, they need to flank these trees and try to shoot at the side armor of the Panther, which should be doable. Here comes a Henschel. This is the correct time, I would think, to call in a Henschel to destroy something like this tank destroyer that's been causing tons and tons of problems to the Germans, or at least, oh, there we go. Looks like one of the tank destroyers going down to the Panther's fire, and the other one going down to the Henschel. And there was fighter cover this time for the Henschel, so very, very good from the Germans, actually covering their precious unit. Looks like a couple of more howitzers are coming in. Oh no, these are mortars. Mortars coming in for Marcus. He's going to be trying to make the final push, I'm guessing, against the town. The Allies absolutely the lead in terms of points. The big push for the Germans was coming in a little bit too late. All these units mostly came in and attacked at once, which was good for a sort of surprise effect. But it meant that the Germans were really saving up a lot of points on the right side. Whereas perhaps they should have been spending their points a little bit more evenly across the map and letting their points essentially work as a front line instead of sitting, doing nothing in the bank. Here comes an artillery barrage on the SFH, which is of course going to be doing tons of damage to that artillery piece. That is to say, unless it doesn't get destroyed first by 25 pounder. Very good. Very good job from the Allies. And right now, they just need to finish off the rest of the Germans in the center of the town. For this purpose, they've brought in those mortars and a couple of flamethrower units. I would also like to see one more artillery barrage observation vehicle, but I guess it's fine. There goes the ram. I'm guessing that was a ram. Yes, that was a ram. At this point, the Germans still have the air superiority with the Henschel and the... Oh, there goes the Henschel. Rip. The Allies also have a Mosquito on the field, so Heavy Bomber Mosquito could be very, very useful on the right side. The Germans are pushing through, but at this point, there aren't really... I'm guessing it's a 40 minutes... Oh no, yeah, there's only 4 minutes left. So it's a 45-minute game. And of course... no, it's not. It's a 40-minute game. So it's a 40-minute game, and the Axis have to get 1,600 points to defeat the Allies. I don't think that's possible at this point. So very good push from the Germans on the right side, but it was a little bit too late to actually turn the tide of the game. What they perhaps should have done is be a little bit more mindful of what they wanted to do. They knew that the right side was going to suffer with the Canadians pushing against 12th SS early on. So perhaps they should have maybe tried to hold on to the town a little bit more fiercely, pushing in yet more infantry than what they did. Of course, the problem on the left side was that they lost the artillery superiority. So maybe they could have invested a little bit more into infantry and artillery. All the vehicles that were bought on the left side of the map, while they were very useful in holding on the 3rd Canadian armor, they really weren't able to turn the tide. They blew a lot of points on mortars that were quickly dispatched by the Allies. Whereas on the right side, the big problem was that sometimes the Germans didn't really have enough recon support to go along with their pushes. I saw a couple of times just charges coming in and getting repulsed because of just running blindly into interlocking fields of fire and going around a corner without first having scouted what was there. And then, of course, there was the little problem of the Allies really making use of their good early game compared to the 12th SS, which wasn't really what the 12th SS were looking for. But at the same time, I guess that could not really have been avoided too much because, again, Allies, compared to the 12th SS early on, have their advantages. The Germans perhaps could have also used their aircraft a little bit better. They wasted the first Henschel, which was 200 points, not something that you want to lose. And of course, I'm guessing it was the only Henschel that they had in Phase B. So, I guess those are the main real issues that the Germans could have been working on, but overall, well played from both sides. Thank you for watching this Steel Division Replaycast. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.